The rain fell heavy over Seoul that night. It was the kind of rain that made people stay inside their warm homes. But Yoonho was not like other people. He was 62 years old, and he had been driving his taxi for 35 years. Rain or snow, hot summer or cold winter, he always worked. His old yellow taxi moved slowly through the empty streets. The clock on his dashboard showed 2:47 inches the morning. Most drivers had gone home hours ago. But Yoonho liked the quiet of late nights. The city felt peaceful when everyone was sleeping. He turned onto a small street near the old market district. The buildings here were old and tired. Many shops had closed years ago. Only a few streetlights worked, and they made weak yellow circles on the wet ground. Yoonho was about to turn around when he saw something move in the dark alley between two buildings. He slowed his taxi and looked carefully. Maybe it was a stray dog, looking for food. Or maybe a homeless person trying to stay dry. But what he saw made him stop the car completely. A small figure was sitting against the brick wall. At first, Yoonho thought it was a child in a strange costume. But as his eyes adjusted to the darkness, he realized this was no costume. The creature had gray fur, covering its body. Its face was like a wolf, with a long nose and pointed ears that lay flat against its head. It was small, maybe the size of a 7-year-old human child, and it was shaking badly from the cold. Yoonho had seen many strange things in his years of driving. Drunk businessmen who forgot their addresses, young couples having loud fights at 3 a.m, even a famous actor who cried about his failed marriage. But he had never seen anything like this. He should have been scared. Any normal person would have driven away fast. But Yoonho looked at the creature's eyes. They were large and golden, and they held the same look he had seen many times before. It was the look of fear. Pure, simple fear. The creature was just a child. A lost, scared child. Yoonho turned off his engine and stepped out into the rain. He walked slowly toward the alley, his old bones complaining with each step. The creature saw him coming and pressed itself harder against the wall. A small whimpering sound came from its throat. "Hey there," Yoonho said softly. He used the same voice he had used years ago, when his own children had nightmares. "I am not going to hurt you." The creature did not understand his words, but it seemed to understand his tone. Its ears lifted slightly. Yoonho noticed dark stains on the creature's fur. Blood. There were cuts on its arms, and a bad wound on its leg. The child was hurt. "Oh, you poor thing," Yoonho whispered. He took off his jacket and held it out. "Here. You must be cold." The creature looked at the jacket, then at Yoonho's face. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the small wolf child reached out and took the jacket. It wrapped the warm cloth around its shaking body. Yoonho smiled. "Good, that is good. Now, are you hungry?" He walked back to his taxi and opened the passenger door. On the seat was his dinner box. His wife, Sun-Yi, always packed him food for his night shifts. Tonight she had made rice balls with vegetables and some fried chicken. He brought the box back to the alley and sat down on the wet ground across from the creature. His pants got soaked immediately, but he did not care. He opened the box and held out a rice ball. The creature sniffed the air. Its golden eyes grew wide. It must have been very hungry because it grabbed the rice ball and ate it in 3 bites. Yoonho laughed quietly and offered another one. For the next 10 minutes, the wolf child ate everything in the box. Yoonho watched with a warm feeling in his chest. He did not know what this creature was or where it came from, but right now, none of that mattered. A hungry child needed food. That was simple enough. When the food was gone, the creature looked at Yoonho with different eyes. The fear was still there. But now there was something else too. Trust. Just a little bit of trust. "Do you have family?" Yoonho asked. He knew the child probably could not understand, but he kept talking anyway. "Someone must be looking for you." The creature tilted its head. Then it pointed toward the sky with one small, clawed finger. It made sounds that were not quite words, but Yoonho understood the meaning. "You came from up there? From space?" He looked up at the rainy sky. Somewhere above those clouds was the endless darkness of space. And somewhere in that darkness was this child's home. The creature nodded. It pointed to itself and said something that sounded like Kira. Then it pointed to its leg wound and made a sad sound. Your ship crashed, Yunho guessed. And you got separated from your family. Kira's ears dropped. She lowered her head and made that whimpering sound again. Yunho made a decision. He was just an old taxi driver. He had no weapons, no special skills, no important connections. But he had a car, and he had time. And most importantly, he had a heart that could not ignore a lost child. Okay, Kira, he said, standing up slowly. His knees cracked loudly. I do not know how to get you back to space, but we will figure it out together. First, let us get you out of this rain and take care of those wounds. He offered his hand. Kira looked at it for a moment. Then she placed her small, furry hand in his. Her claws were sharp, but her touch was gentle. Yunho helped her stand. She was limping badly because of her leg wound. Without thinking, he bent down and picked her up. She was lighter than he expected. Kira made a surprised sound but did not fight him. Instead, she wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her face in his shoulder. She was still shaking, but now it seemed more like relief than fear. It is okay, Yunho said as he carried her to his taxi. You are safe now. I will help you find your family. He placed her gently in the back seat and wrapped his jacket tighter around her. Then he got in the driver's seat and turned on the heater to full power. First, we need to clean those wounds, he said, looking at her in the mirror. I know a place. He started the engine and drove into the rainy night. In the back seat, Kira watched the city lights pass by the window. For the first time since her ship crashed, she did not feel alone. And Yunho, the old taxi driver who had seen everything, realized that tonight his life had changed forever. He did not know how much yet. He could not imagine that his simple act of kindness would soon bring 15 Armadas to Earth. All he knew was that a child needed help, and he was going to give it. That was enough reason for him. Yunho drove to the only place he knew would be open at this hour. It was a small clinic run by his old friend, Dr. Tae-sik. They had served in the army together 40 years ago. Tae-sik had seen strange wounds in his time. And more importantly, he knew how to keep secrets. The clinic was in a quiet neighborhood. Yunho parked in the back and carried Kira inside through the rear door. Tae-sik was sleeping on a small bed in his office. He woke up when he heard footsteps. Yunho? What are you doing here at this? The old doctor stopped talking when he saw what Yunho was carrying. His eyes went wide behind his thick glasses. Before you say anything, Yunho said quickly, she is hurt and she needs help. Tae-sik stared at Kira for a long moment. The wolf child stared back at him with her golden eyes. She pressed closer to Yunho's chest, clearly afraid of this new person. Is that an alien? Tae-sik whispered. Yes, her name is Kira. Her ship crashed somewhere. She is just a child, Tae-sik. Look at her wounds. The doctor took a deep breath. He had been a military doctor for 20 years before opening his clinic. He had treated bullet wounds, burns, and injuries that would make normal people sick. But this was something completely new. Still, a wound was a wound. And a scared child was a scared child. Put her on the table, Tae-sik said finally. Yunho laid Kira down gently. She whimpered when her leg touched the cold metal surface. Yunho held her hand and spoke softly to her, while Tae-sik examined her injuries. The cuts are not deep, the doctor said after a few minutes. But this leg wound is bad. She must have gotten it during the crash. I need to clean it and close it with stitches. Will it hurt her? I have some local medicine to numb the area. I do not know if it will work on her body. But we have to try. Tae-sik worked carefully for the next hour. Kira was brave. She cried a little when the needle went in. But she held onto Yunho's hand and did not move. When it was over, her leg was wrapped in clean white bandages. She needs rest, Tae-sik said. And food. Lots of food. Her body is trying to heal itself. Thank you, old friend. Tae-sik looked at Yoon-ho seriously. What are you going to do now? You cannot just drive around with an alien child in your taxi. People will panic. The government will get involved. Yoon-ho had been thinking about this. She pointed to the sky. Her family is up there somewhere. I think her ship might be hidden outside the city. If I can find it, maybe I can help her get back. That is crazy. Maybe. But what else can I do? Leave her on the street? Tae-sik sighed. He knew his friend too well. Once Yoon-ho decided to help someone, nothing could stop him. Fine. But be careful. Call me if you need anything. Yoon-ho carried Kira back to the taxi. The rain had stopped, and the first light of morning was appearing in the sky. He needed to move fast. During the day, someone might see Kira through the car windows. Okay, little one, he said to her. Can you show me where your ship is? Kira seemed to understand. She sat up in the back seat and looked out the window. She pointed east, toward the mountains outside Seoul. Yoon-ho started driving. For the next several hours, they traveled on small roads that wound through the countryside. Kira would point whenever they needed to turn. Sometimes she would close her eyes and seem to listen to something Yoon-ho could not hear. Then she would point again with more confidence. They stopped once at a small convenience store. Yoon-ho left Kira in the car with the windows slightly open and went inside. He bought water, bread, and some cooked meat. The store owner looked at him strangely. Feeding stray animals? The owner asked. Something like that, Yoon-ho replied. Back in the car, Kira ate the meat happily. She seemed to be getting stronger. Her ears were up now, and her golden eyes were bright and alert. As they drove deeper into the mountains, Kira began making sounds. At first, Yoon-ho thought she was just babbling. But then he realized she was trying to communicate. She pointed at trees and made one sound. She pointed at the sky and made another. She pointed at herself and said, Kira again. You are teaching me your language, Yoon-ho said with a smile. Okay, let me try. For the next hour, they traded words. Yoon-ho learned that Vora meant family. Shen meant ship. And Tika was the word for thank you. In return, Yoon-ho taught Kira some Korean words. She struggled with the sounds, but she tried hard. By the afternoon, she could say yes, no, and friend. The sun was starting to set when they reached a thick forest at the base of a tall mountain. Kira suddenly became very excited. She pressed her face against the window and made happy sounds. Your ship is here? Yoon-ho asked. Shen. Kira pointed toward a narrow path that led into the trees. The path was too small for the taxi. Yoon-ho parked the car and helped Kira out. Her leg was still hurt, so she walked slowly with his help. They walked for about 20 minutes. The forest was quiet except for birds singing in the trees. Then Kira stopped and pointed ahead. There, hidden under branches and leaves, was a ship. It was not very big. Maybe the size of a small bus. Its metal surface was smooth and silver. But there were black marks on one side, where it had been damaged. Kira pulled away from Yoon-ho and limped toward the ship as fast as she could. She touched the metal surface and spoke rapidly in her language. A door opened on the side of the ship. Yoon-ho watched from a distance. His heart was beating fast. He had helped Kira find her ship. But what now? Would she just leave? Would her family be inside? Kira went into the ship and disappeared for a moment. Then she came back out with a strange device in her hand. She pressed buttons on it and spoke into it urgently. A voice answered. It was deep and rough, speaking in the same language Kira used. Kira's ears shot straight up. She replied quickly, and Yoon-ho could hear the relief in her voice even though he did not understand the words. When the conversation ended, Kira turned to Yoon-ho with tears in her golden eyes. Vora, she said. Vora coming. Your family is coming? Kira nodded. She limped over to Yoon-ho and took his hand. She led him to a fallen log and made him sit down. Then she sat next to him and leaned against his arm. How long until they get here? Yoon-ho asked. Kira held up one finger. Then she pointed at the sky where stars were beginning to appear. One night? They will be here tomorrow? She nodded again. Yunho looked at the damaged ship, then at the small wolf child pressed against his side. Tomorrow, her family would come. His job was almost done, but somewhere in his chest, he felt a small sadness. He had only known Kira for one day, yet he had grown fond of her. She was brave and smart and kind. She reminded him of his own grandchildren. Well? He said, putting his arm around her small shoulders. I guess we wait together. Kira looked up at him and smiled. It was a wolf smile, with too many sharp teeth showing. But to Yunho, it was beautiful. Tika, she said softly. Tika, friend. You are welcome, little one, Yunho replied. You are very welcome. They sat together in the quiet forest as night fell around them. Above them, somewhere among the stars, 15 armadas were already moving toward Earth, but neither of them knew that yet. For now, they were just an old man and a lost child, waiting for morning to come. Yunho did not sleep that night. He sat on the fallen log with Kira curled up against him, her small body wrapped in his jacket. The forest was dark and quiet, but he did not feel afraid. He felt strangely peaceful. Around midnight, he heard his phone ring. It was his wife. Sunyi. Where are you? She asked, her voice full of worry. You did not come home this morning. I have been calling for hours. Yunho looked down at Kira, who was sleeping soundly. I am sorry, dear. Something came up. I cannot explain right now, but I am safe. Are you in trouble? Should I call the police? No, nothing like that. I will be home tomorrow. I promise. There was a long silence on the phone. Then Sunyi said, 35 years of marriage. Yunho, I know when you are keeping something from me, but I also know you are a good man. Whatever you are doing, I trust you. Thank you, Yunho said softly. I love you. I love you too. Come home safe. He put the phone away and looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, Kira's family was flying toward Earth. He wondered what they would be like. Would they be angry? Would they trust him, or would they see him as a threat? The night passed slowly. Yunho watched the stars move across the sky. He thought about his life, all the passengers he had driven, all the stories he had heard. He had never expected to be part of such a strange story himself. Just before sunrise, Kira woke up. She lifted her head and sniffed the air. Her ears stood straight up. She made an excited sound and jumped to her feet, ignoring her hurt leg. Vora? Yunho asked. Kira nodded rapidly. She pointed at the sky. Yunho looked up but saw nothing. Then, slowly, he noticed something moving among the clouds. It was a ship, much bigger than Kira's damaged one. It descended silently, its surface catching the first light of the morning sun. The ship landed in a small clearing about 50 meters away. It was large enough to hold maybe 20 people. Its metal surface was covered with strange symbols that glowed softly. A door opened on the side of the ship. Yunho stood up slowly, his old body stiff from sitting all night. His heart was beating fast now. This was it. The moment of truth. 3 figures stepped out of the ship. They were tall, much taller than humans. Their bodies were covered in thick gray fur, like Kira's but darker. They wore armor that looked both beautiful and dangerous. Their faces were stern, and their golden eyes scanned the forest with sharp attention. They were warriors. Yunho could see it in the way they moved, the way they held themselves. These were not scientists or explorers. These were soldiers. The largest of the 3 saw Kira and made a sound that was half growl, half cry of relief. He ran forward and dropped to his knees in front of her. He grabbed her shoulders and looked at her carefully, checking for injuries. Then he pulled her into a tight hug. Kira hugged him back, crying and laughing at the same time. She spoke rapidly in her language, pointing at Yunho several times. The big warrior listened, his expression changing from relief to confusion, to something Yunho could not read. Finally, the warrior stood up and walked toward Yunho. The other 2 warriors followed, their hands resting on weapons at their sides. Yunho did not move. He knew that running would be useless and probably dangerous. So he stood straight and met the warrior's golden eyes without looking away. The warrior stopped directly in front of him. He was at least 2 meters tall. Maybe more. His teeth were longer and sharper than Kira's. Up close, he looked like something from a nightmare, but Yunho had raised 3 children. He had dealt with angry customers, drunk passengers, and once, a man with a knife who tried to rob him. Fear was something he had learned to control a long time ago. "You are the human who helped our child?" the warrior asked. His voice was deep and rough, but he spoke Korean surprisingly well. "Yes," Yunho said simply. "She was hurt and lost. I could not leave her alone." The warrior studied him for a long moment. "What do you want in return?" Yunho blinked. "What do I want? Payment. Reward. Every species has a price. What is yours?" Yunho thought about this question. He looked at Kira, who was watching the conversation with worried eyes. Then he looked back at the warrior. "Nothing," he said. The warrior's ears twitched. "Nothing? She was a child who needed help. I helped her. That is all." Silence fell over the clearing. The 3 warriors exchanged looks that Yunho could not understand. The big one turned back to him with a strange expression. "In all our travels across the galaxy, we have met many species. Some are kind, most are not. But all of them, without exception, have asked for something in return for helping us. You are the first to ask for nothing," Yunho shrugged. "Where I come from, helping children is not something you get paid for. It is something you do because it is right." The warrior was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, he lowered his head in what looked like a bow. The other 2 warriors did the same. "I am Rokta, guardian of the High Pack," the big warrior said. "You have shown us something rare, human. True kindness. We will not forget this." Kira ran over to Yunho and hugged his legs. "Tika," she said. "Tika. Friend." Yunho bent down and hugged her back. His eyes were wet, but he pretended it was just the morning air. "Take care of yourself, little one. Eat well. Let your leg heal properly." Kira nodded. She reached into the pocket of his jacket, which she was still wearing, and pulled out a small object. It was a stone that glowed faintly with blue light. She pressed it into Yunho's hand. "For remember," she said in broken Korean. "For remember, Kira." Yunho held the stone tightly. "I will never forget you." Kira smiled her wolf smile one more time. Then she took off the jacket and gave it back to him. She ran to Rokta, who picked her up and held her against his chest. The warriors walked back toward their ship. At the door, Kira turned and waved at Yunho. He waved back. Then the door closed, and the ship rose silently into the sky. It moved faster and faster until it was just a small dot among the clouds. Then it was gone. Yunho stood alone in the clearing, holding his jacket in one hand and the glowing stone in the other. The forest was quiet again. Birds began to sing. The sun climbed higher. He took a deep breath and started walking back to his taxi. The drive home took several hours. Yunho stopped once to buy breakfast and call his wife. He told her he would explain everything when he got home. She did not push him for details. When he finally pulled into his driveway, Sunyi was waiting at the door. She looked at his tired face, his dirty clothes, and the strange glowing stone in his hand. She did not ask questions. She simply hugged him and led him inside. "Whatever happened," she said. "You can tell me when you are ready." Yunho sat down at the kitchen table. He looked at the stone, still glowing softly in the morning light. "I met someone," he said slowly. "A child. She was lost and scared. I helped her find her way home." Sunyi smiled. "That sounds like something you would do." Her family came to get her this morning. They were different. Very different. But they were grateful. Sunyi sat down across from him and held his hand. "I am proud of you, husband." Yunho smiled tiredly. He did not know that high above the earth, messages were being sent across the galaxy. He did not know that his simple act of kindness had set something much bigger in motion. He did not know that by tomorrow, everything would change. For now, he was just an old taxi driver who had helped a lost child find her way home. And that was enough. The next morning started like any other. Yunho woke up late, tired from his strange adventure. Sun-Yi made him breakfast and told him to rest. He sat in his favorite chair by the window and watched the morning news while drinking tea. The news was boring as usual. A politician was making promises. A celebrity was getting divorced. The weather would be cloudy with a chance of rain. Then the broadcast stopped suddenly. The screen went black for a moment before showing a nervous-looking news anchor. "We are receiving reports of unidentified objects approaching Earth," the anchor said, his voice shaking slightly. "Military satellites have detected multiple large vessels entering our atmosphere. We are going live to our reporter at the Ministry of Defense." Yunho put down his teacup. His heart began to beat faster. The screen changed to show a press conference. Generals and government officials stood behind a podium, their faces pale and serious. Behind them, a large screen showed satellite images of space, ships, hundreds of ships. They were moving toward Earth in perfect formation. At approximately 0600 hours this morning, a general announced, "We detected 15 separate fleets entering our solar system. Each fleet contains between 50 and 100 vessels of varying sizes. We have attempted to make contact, but so far, we have received no response." The room exploded with questions from reporters. The general raised his hand for silence. "We are working with our allies around the world to coordinate our response. At this time, we ask all citizens to remain calm. Please stay in your homes and await further instructions." Sun-Yi came running into the room. "Yunho, are you seeing this? What is happening?" Yunho did not answer. He was staring at the screen, his mind racing. 15 fleets. The wolves. Kira had said her family was coming. But this was not a family. This was an army. What had he done? The next few hours were chaos. Every television channel showed the same images, massive ships descending through the clouds. They were different from Kira's small vessel. These ships were black and angular, covered with weapons that looked powerful enough to destroy cities. World leaders made emergency announcements. Military forces around the globe went to highest alert. People filled the streets in panic, trying to flee the cities. Traffic jams stretched for miles on every highway, but the ships did not attack. They simply descended and hovered in the sky, silent and still, like predators watching their prey. Yunho sat frozen in his chair. The glowing stone Kira had given him felt warm in his pocket. He pulled it out and looked at it. The blue light pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Then his phone rang. The number was unknown. "Hello?" he answered. "Is this Yunho?" The voice was deep and familiar. It was Rokta, the guardian who had come to take Kira home. "Yes. What is happening? Why are there so many ships? We need to see you. Come outside your home." Yunho looked out his window. In the street, in front of his house, a small ship was landing. It was silver and sleek, very different from the black warships in the sky. Neighbors were running away from it, screaming in fear. "Yunho." Sun-Yi grabbed his arm. "What is going on? Who was on the phone?" "No. Stay here," he told her. "I need to go outside." "Are you crazy? Those are aliens." Yunho took her hands and looked into her eyes. "I know. I told you I met someone. A child. These are her people. I do not know why they have come, but I think they are here for me." Sun-Yi stared at him. In 35 years of marriage, she had never seen him look so serious. "Come back safe," she whispered. He kissed her forehead and walked out the front door. The ship's door opened as he approached. Rokta stepped out, wearing the same armor as before. 2 other warriors followed him. They looked around at the small neighborhood with curious expressions. "Yunho," Rokta said with a nod. "Thank you for meeting us. Why are there 15 fleets above my planet?" Yunho demanded. His voice was stronger than he felt. "Are you here to invade?" Rokta's ears twitched in what might have been amusement. "Invade? No. We are here to honor you. Honor me? By terrifying every person on Earth? Rakta looked up at the sky where the massive ships were hovering. I apologize. We did not mean to frighten your people. This is the standard escort for our High Alpha. She wanted to come personally. Yunho felt confusion wash over him. High Alpha? What are you talking about? Kira, Rakta said simply. The child you saved. She is not just any child. She is the daughter of our High Alpha, the leader of all our packs. When her ship crashed on your planet, we feared the worst. We sent scouts to find her, but instead, we found her safe and healed, protected by a human who asked for nothing in return. The words hit Yunho like a punch. Kira was not just a lost child. She was something like a princess. Maybe more. The High Alpha heard what you did, Rakta continued. She wanted to thank you herself. The fleets came to escort her safely. It is our way of showing importance. You could have sent a message first, Yunho said, frustration breaking through. People are panicking. They think you are here to attack. Rakta lowered his head. You are right. We did not think about how your people would react. For this, I apologize. Another ship descended from the sky. This one was larger than Rakta's vessel, covered in golden symbols that seemed to glow with inner light. It landed gently in the middle of the street. The door opened, and warriors in golden armor stepped out first, forming two lines on either side of the ship's entrance. Then a tall figure emerged. She was like Kira, but older and larger. Her fur was silver white instead of gray, and her eyes burned like twin suns. She wore robes of deep blue covered with stars that seemed to move and shimmer. On her head sat a crown made of some metal that glowed like moonlight. But what Yunho noticed most was Kira, walking beside her mother and holding her hand. When the small wolf child saw Yunho, her face lit up with joy. Friend, she called out, pulling away from her mother and running toward him. Yunho caught her in a hug. She was heavier today, and her legs seemed much better. Hello, little one. You look well. Mama wanted to meet you, Kira said excitedly. Mama wanted to say Tika too. The High Alpha approached slowly. Up close, she was the most impressive being Yunho had ever seen. Power and authority surrounded her like a physical force, but her eyes, as they looked at him, were warm. So you are Yunho, she said. Her voice was like music mixed with thunder. The taxi driver who saved my daughter. Yunho bowed his head respectfully. I only did what anyone would do. No. The High Alpha said firmly. That is not true. I have studied your world since receiving Rakta's report. Your species is young, and often cruel to each other. Many of your people would have harmed my daughter or used her for profit. But you showed her kindness when she had nothing to offer you. You fed her, healed her, and returned her to us without asking for anything. She placed her hand on his shoulder. It was large enough to cover his entire shoulder, but her touch was gentle. In my culture, such kindness creates a bond that cannot be broken. You have done more than save my child. You have earned the eternal friendship of my people. Yunho looked up at the fleets still hovering in the sky, then at the terrified faces of his neighbors watching from their windows. Then please, tell your people to stop scaring mine. Let them know you come in peace. The High Alpha smiled, showing teeth that could crush stone. But somehow, the smile was warm. That is exactly what we intend to do, and we want you to help us. The world watched as the High Alpha of the Wolf People made her announcement. Every television, every phone, every computer screen showed her face as she spoke. Her voice was translated into every human language. People of Earth, she said, standing beside Yunho in front of cameras from around the world. We are the Fenris, guardians of 17 star systems. 2 days ago, my daughter's ship crashed on your planet. She was alone, injured, and afraid. Many species would have captured her for profit, experimented on her for knowledge, or harmed her out of fear. Instead, one of your people found her in the rain and showed her kindness. The High Alpha gestured toward Yunho, who stood nervously in his best suit. Sun-Yi had insisted he dress properly for the occasion, though he still wore his taxi driver jacket over the suit. He refused to take it off. This man, the High Alpha continued, asked for nothing in return. He fed my child, healed her wounds, and helped her find her way home. He showed us that humanity, despite its youth and struggles, has something rare and precious: true compassion. Across the planet, people listened in stunned silence. The fear that had gripped the world for the past day began to fade, replaced by something else: wonder, hope. We have come not to conquer, but to offer friendship. Because of one man's kindness, we now extend our protection to Earth. We offer you trade, technology, and a place among the stars. All of this because Yunho showed mercy to a lost child. The cameras turned to Yunho. He had never liked being the center of attention. He was just a taxi driver. He was supposed to be invisible, just another face in the city. But here he was, standing next to the most powerful being he had ever met, with the eyes of the entire world on him. A reporter pushed forward with a microphone. Yunho, what do you have to say? How does it feel to be responsible for this historic moment? Quote. Yunho cleared his throat. He thought about all the fancy words he could say, all the grand statements about humanity and peace. But in the end, he was still just Yunho, an old man who drove a taxi. I just helped a little girl find her way home, he said simply. That is all. Any decent person would have done the same. The High Alpha smiled at his words. And that, she said to the cameras, is exactly why we are here. Because you are wrong, Yunho. Not every person would have done the same, but you did, and that matters. In the days that followed, Earth changed forever. The Fenris ships landed peacefully in designated areas around the world. Their leaders met with human governments to begin discussions about trade and cooperation. Technology was shared, diseases were cured, and problems that had seemed impossible suddenly had solutions. And through it all, Yunho was there. The United Nations asked him to serve as Earth's first ambassador to the Fenris. At first, he refused. He was not a diplomat or a politician. He did not know anything about international relations or alien cultures. But the High Alpha personally requested him. My people trust you, she explained. You showed kindness to my daughter, without any reason, except that it was right. That kind of trust cannot be bought or trained. It must be earned. You have earned it. Kira also begged him to accept. Please, friend, she said, holding his hand with both of hers. I want you to stay. I want to learn more about your world, and I want you to learn about mine. In the end, how could he say no? The ceremony was held 3 weeks later. World leaders gathered in Geneva for the official signing of the friendship treaty between Earth and the Fenris Collective. Yunho stood on a stage that seemed too big, wearing his taxi driver jacket over a formal suit despite Sun-Yi's protests. This jacket is part of who I am, he had told her. I am not going to pretend to be someone I am not. The High Alpha approached him with a medal in her hands. It was made of the same glowing metal as her crown, shaped like a wolf howling at a star. Yunho of Earth, she announced, I present you with the Star of the Alpha, the highest honor our people can give. You have shown us that the universe still holds kindness, even in its smallest corners. You have changed the future of 2 civilizations, with a simple act of compassion. From this day forward, you are not just Earth's ambassador, you are family. She placed the medal around his neck. It was surprisingly light. Kira ran up and hugged him, ignoring all the formal rules about behavior during ceremonies. The crowd laughed and cheered. Later that evening, there was a celebration. Music played, food was served, and people from 2 different worlds talked and laughed together. Yunho sat in a corner, watching everything with tired but happy eyes. Sun-Yi sat beside him, holding his hand. Can you believe? This is our life now? Yunho shook his head. No, I keep expecting to wake up. Are you happy? He thought about it. 2 weeks ago, he had been a 62-year-old taxi driver, counting the days until retirement. Now he was an ambassador, a hero, and apparently, family to an alien civilization. I am scared, he admitted. I do not know how to do any of this. I do not know how to be an ambassador, or give speeches or make important decisions. But when I look at Kira, when I see how happy she is, when I think about all the good that can come from this. He squeezed his wife's hand. Yes. I am happy. Kira came running over, pulling her mother behind her. The High Alpha allowed herself to be dragged with a patient smile. Friend, Mama says we can visit your home tomorrow. She wants to try your wife's cooking. Yunho looked at Sun Yi, who looked terrified. What does an alien wolf queen eat? The High Alpha laughed, a sound like bells, mixed with a growl. Anything, really. But Kira has not stopped talking about something called fried chicken. Yunho smiled. I think we can manage that. The celebration continued late into the night. Leaders made speeches about the future. Scientists talked about possibilities. Reporters wrote stories that would be read for generations. But the story that mattered most was simpler. An old taxi driver found a lost child in the rain. He helped her without asking for anything in return. And because of that small kindness, two worlds found each other. In the end, it was not weapons or technology or politics that brought peace. It was compassion. It was the simple choice to help someone in need. As Yunho looked up at the stars that night, Kira sleeping against his shoulder and his wife's hand in his, he thought about all the passengers he had driven over the years, all the stories he had heard, all the lives he had touched in small ways. He had always believed that small kindnesses mattered. Now, he knew it was true. And somewhere in those stars, in the great network of civilizations that spanned the galaxy, a message was spreading. Earth, the small blue planet, had produced someone special. Not a warrior, or a king, or a genius. Just a taxi driver with a kind heart. And that was more valuable than all the gold in the universe. The end.